For many years, people were told, use satin pillowcases and get a satin bonnet to wear on your head. And believe it or not, there is a difference when it comes down to silk or satin. Which one is really best for your hair? Well, the answer may actually shock you, and some of you may know already. So let's talk about it, y'all. Let's talk about it in detail. So, for a long time, I would even hear, oh, get satin pillowcases and scrunchies and wear those. And I used to believe that for a long time. But satin is synthetic. Satin is synthetic. Silk is natural. Silk is more suitable for people that have textured hair. So, what you really should do is look for silk pillowcases and silk bonnets if you have a hair with texture. So, why? Why is silk better? Well, the products are more useful for people with, as I said, texturized hair. Silk is a natural fabric. Satin is made of synthetic material. So, silk bonnets, a lot of people are astonished after they've worn them for a while. The hair will appear to be a lot softer and healthier. So, it's really your best bet for nighttime care if you wear the silk over the satin. Other things people have noticed, whenever wearing a protective covering, the silk is a little better at preserving your hairstyles. It's better in retaining moisture to your hair, and it decreases any friction, which you absolutely don't want because that's what causes a lot of hair breakage. So the silk will reduce friction and frizz. So it's nothing new, y'all. Silk bonnets and pillowcases actually were heavily used back in the 1800s. And it was not unusual for even our women back then, our foremothers, to wear the silk back then. And they saw great results. They really did. So some people would even call it like a magic silk hair covering. So black women are actually making the silk head coverings and pillowcases popular again. It kind of fizzled out because people were choosing satin, not knowing that it was synthetic. So, me for a long time, my son and my husband, they don't care what they sleep on. They just, as long as a pillowcase is on it. But I would always have my separate pillowcase, you know, and like many people for years, I always had the satin pillowcase. And I switched over to silk a few years ago. And the silk bonnet, the silk head covering, I wear that as well. And it is a difference. It really truly is. When your hair is on something synthetic and on something natural, yeah, it is really a difference. Nowadays, you will notice, even when you start wearing the silk, that one notable thing I always noticed, my hair felt soft all the time wearing the silk opposed to the satin. And it just felt healthier to me. Now, it's not unusual nowadays. The sisters have been wearing the head coverings forever. I remember my mother wearing it. And I'm sure many of you might even remember your grandmothers and your great grandmothers, if they were still living when you were born. You remember seeing them with head coverings on. So it is nothing new for the women in our culture to wear these. But nowadays, you're starting to see women of other cultures also wearing these head coverings. I mean, look, I've seen white women on TikTok with bonnets on in their videos. Seriously. And I went out a few times and seen white women in bonnets. You know, they always want to make it seem like it's just black women wearing these bonnets. They wear them too. And they sit on these videos with those bonnets on just as well. But the only one that gets called out on it are, of course, black women. I've seen even Asian women with silk bonnets, not silk, but satin bonnets on. you know I've seen them on there, and some people, of course, believe that is cultural appropriation because historically it's always been black women with the hair covering. And during chattel slavery, they had to cover their hair. They even had laws written, and still do, about our hair. When it comes down to school, you only hear them complaining about black children. You don't hear about any other child that they complain about when it comes down to wearing a head covering.